Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our very, very welcome guest. Good evening to all of you. What is the cost of real love? Many years ago, in a small town in Georgia, a little baby girl was born. And suddenly there was a piercing, loud cry, and it was followed by a group of people clapping and clapping and clapping. And this happened just outside a little farmhouse where the men of that village had gathered to await the news of this beautiful newborn baby girl. Her mother had instantly named her Emma, and she loved her dearly. The village practitioner wrapped her in a beautiful robe and took her out for her father to look at her. And her father cried, and they were so happy that she was born. The mother, forgetting about her own pain, her own discomfort, her own anxiety, all she wanted to do was to look after this little baby girl. And so she bathed her and loved her and prayed for her and fed her just like every mother does. And sometimes even when baking and cooking and doing the chores, you could see her muttering a prayer for the little girl. And as Emma grew up, things were very, very hard on the farm. And so her mom started to bake cookies and make jams and jellies, and she would walk miles down the village to the village store just to sell them in order for her to buy a little toy for Emma, or a chocolate, or a beautiful pencil, or a rubber, or a little school bag. And then she started to help her husband with the farm as well, but she had to save some money because she wanted Emma to have birthday parties just like every other little child had. And these birthday parties became very, very special to her. So she worked extra hard on the farm. And she worked extra hard to prepare those jams and jellies just to give Emma those beautiful little parties where not only the children were so happy, but even the animals seemed to be extra happy on those days, you know. And Mother never wanted that to stop. And slowly over time, Emma grew up. And suddenly, their entire crop died. And Emma had a very rich aunt living in the city. And the aunt sent her $300 as pocket money. But because there was no money on the farm, her parents had to use that money for food and for what they needed. And they asked Emma, "Do you mind if we use this money?" And she agreed. And food was so scarce that sometimes her parents shared a meal and sometimes they went to bed hungry, but they always made sure that she had a meal when she came home from school. And Emma continued to grow into a beautiful, lovely looking girl. And one day she came home and all the animals on the farm had gone. And then she asked her mother and father, "Where are all the animals?" And the mother said, "The animals, well, there's talk of some disease that's spreading, so we've had to get rid of all the animals." And with that, she looked at her husband and she made big eyes and she said, say nothing. And a few weeks later, Emma came charging into the house and she was so excited. And she said, "Mama, I've been accepted into a college. I can't believe it. I'm going to be the best doctor. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to leave this place. I'm going to. And the parents said to her, "All we want is that you become the finest girl in the land. And we want the best for you at all times." And then a few days later, Emma ran down the stairs with an envelope and she said, "Mama, please read this after I go to school. But don't forget, I need a response." And the mother said, "Of course, sweetheart. Goodbye. Have a lovely day." And so she sat down with a warm cup of coffee and she opened the envelope. And in the letter, Emma had written, "Mama, do you remember the $300 that Auntie Barbara sent me? You borrowed it from me. You owe it back to me. And Mama, I have been paying for my school lunches with the pocket money you've given me 3 months ago. Can you please return that to me as well? And you haven't really given me pocket money for the last 3 months anyway, so I need that too. And Carl, our milkman, has been ill, as you know, and I've been helping to milk those cows for 13 days. So he charges $4. I'll take just 2, but if you could add that to the sum as well, please. Because you know I need all the money I need to go to college." And the mother turned the paper over, and with big tears in her eyes, she sat there, and then she put pen to paper. And she wrote that for all the 9 months that I have carried you, there's absolutely no charge. For all your toys and your clothes, and for wiping that nose, there's no charge at all. For all your parties and your games and everything that I have given you over the years, there's no charge. And for your college as well, there's no charge. And for the real cost of true love, there will never be any charge." And she folded up the letter and put it back in the envelope and left it on the table. And Emma came running back from school and she went straight for that envelope. And the mother just turned her back to the oven because she couldn't face her daughter as she cried silently. And Emma picked up that envelope, opened it, and when she read what her mother had written, she knew why her mother couldn't look at her. And she cried bitterly, and she thought for a while, what should I do? And she turned the letter back, and she wrote on it, "Mama, I forgot to add one more thing to my list." And in big bold letters she wrote, "Forgiveness, for which I know that there will be no charge." Thank you.
My little boy came into the kitchen this evening while I was fixing supper, and he handed me a piece of paper he'd been writing on. And after wiping my hands on my apron, I read it. And this is what it said: "For mowing the yard, $5. Making my own bed this week, $1. And going to the store, 50 cents. And watching little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. For taking out the trash, $1. Getting a good report card, $5. And raking the yard, $2. Total owed, $14.75. Well, I stood there looking at him expectantly, and 1,000 memories flashed through my mind. So I picked up the pen and, turning the paper over, this is what I wrote. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you, doctored you, prayed for you, no charge. when he finished reading, he had great big old tears in his eyes. And he looked up at me and he said, Mama, I sure do love you. Then he took the pen and in great big letters he wrote, paid in full. When you